So a headline is on the Drudge Report. It's kind of wearing out its welcome, and maybe not, because I'm talking about it. And that is, it says, New York Times, secret plans for apocalyptic scenarios. And you click on it, it takes you to a story that's running on MSN, talking about how newly discovered documents have shed a crack of light on secret executive branch plans for apocalyptic scenarios. Now, we know, or we have known for some time, that they have always had in their archives plans for apocalyptic scenarios. In fact, if you look at the report from Iron Mountain, we've talked about that before, where they were talking about scenarios that they could carry out that would be a replacement for war. And some of those things were like climate change and, of course, alien invasion and gun disarmament. And it just seems that we are, again, being manipulated into falling for these apocalyptic scenarios, or at least, people, if you tell them this, they'll say, well, this is just conspiracy theory. But the truth is, a lot of people want to somehow shut down the idea that there is a conspiratorial view of history. Most of us have been taught the accidental view of history. The view is reinforced throughout our lives because of the controlled mass media. And as a result, when most discover the conspiratorial view of history, or they listen to shows like mine or Alex Jones or others, the immediate reaction is shock, disbelief, and a refusal to accept something other than what they've been taught to believe. True freedom, though, comes when you realize that most of history has been structured and planned by a cryptocracy that pays no attention to morality or even what we call accidental history, because they know what they do is a gradual step-by-step process toward world domination. And in the case of apocalyptic scenarios, world desolation, or a scorched earth policy, which they wish to carry out. There's power in controlling information and intelligence in the United States. There is power in conducting psychological operations that get people to do the bidding of the masters. And this is a reason why the United States employs enormous intelligence agencies like the CIA. This is why CIA and other alphabet agencies have a lot of power. And their power is invisible. Why? Because they're there to wage psychological warfare and other methods of warfare never before imagined on the American people. Okay? And this is something that we can read about in history. We read about it when we talk about the Kennedys being killed. We read about it with Martin Luther King being killed. And we certainly ask ourselves, when times like these, where we have shootings and other mass casualty events where people are terrified, you look at the possibility that some of these shooters are taken into some quiet or some secluded place where they're trained to carry out this type of killing. Because, it always makes me wonder where young kids get guns like they get and get the type of armor they wear. And we all know about, Manchurian Candidates? We all know about Sirhan. We know about, the hypnosis, the MK-Ultra. Until Congress discovered the MK-Ultra programs in the 1970s, the American public and the court of psychiatric opinion were still in their own twilight state. And they had no idea what the CIA was doing in their name. Assassinations, experimental testing, and mind control. Leading psychiatrists at Harvard and Columbia medical schools saying, well, yeah, the data is there for putting people in a trance. The data is there for these scenarios. And then we go back to hearing about some of these types of activities that they were involved in, that Johnson had the okay on, that Kennedy said no to, and that was the Iron Mountain scenarios. These ideas of apocalypse scenarios. Now we're getting the articles to leak. And there's so many leaking articles, I just can't keep up with them. But when they're talking about the apocalyptic scenarios, it proves that there is a deep state. It's not something that Donald Trump came up with. The deep state is now there. We have public knowledge now of how the government had classified directives, and they were put there by what is known as a shadow government, and these files have been now leaked to the New York Times. The bottom line is that these documents leave no doubt that the post 9/11 emergency actions documents have directed significant implications for American civil liberties. And even though it's unclear how the directives have evolved since the later stages of the Cold War, they have likely expanded to include other scenarios beyond a devastating nuclear attack. I'm sure biological attacks are in there and others. So the documents show the later versions extended from the category that they had. They had 7. They went from a few to now 7 different categories. A lot of those topics remain secret. They fall within the jurisdiction of agencies with different areas of focus. But the newly disclosed documents show that in total, okay, we have 7 that we're aware of, but 48. There were 48 directives when the Bush administration took office, and by 2008, that number had grown to 56. Vice President Dick Cheney's office was involved in reviewing and clearing these apocalypse orders. And these documents don't even indicate any consultation with Congress. This was all made in the top, okay? It was all from the top. And like they say, the fish rots from the top down. So when you discuss issues of nuclear war, when you discuss issues of COVID-19, plagues, pestilence, and we discuss issues of alien invasion or whatever, and I pointed out that there is something called core intelligence where there are certain members with high clearances that have been briefed on doomsday scenarios, which include scorched earth policies that are terrifying to even contemplate. Core intelligence is always somehow linked to doomsday blueprint intelligence cores. Information that can be found if we just look for it. However, in a world where there's no time to sit and research things, we take for granted that those whom we've deemed the messengers are going to give us the truth. Well, they haven't. And a lot of people take for granted that our individual interpretation is the only answer to a riddle or a predicament. If a popular alternative theory gains any momentum in the critical mass, there's always someone with an agenda to counter that. If they are powerful enough, they're going to try and do their best to erase or otherwise malign the theory to the point where a great number of people would feel ashamed to even bring it up. And that is the idea that if it happens in government, it was planned that way. But there is a conspiracy, and to basically tear down those who have conspiracy theories, this is something that is being done by design. Why? Because they don't want the magician, they don't want the magician's tricks to be revealed to people. But with all these leaks and with all these new discoveries, we're finding that they have protocols for the end of you and the end of me.